Hi, everyone. Welcome to the next session, the CTV Future in France. This is going to be a panel. It's going to be a talk at first with some research from Karen Ring at Magnite, who is the head of research and insights there, followed by a panel where we'll be talking about CTV and other challenges. Karen, can you take it away?
Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Karen Ring, and I'm the Senior Director of Research and Insights at Magnite. I oversee our research practice, which spans everything from developing training programs to producing all of our proprietary research to help clients with their video-first strategies. Today, I'm excited to share with you the results of our hot-off-the-presses research into CTV usage and behaviors in EMEA. When I say hot off the presses, we just got this data literally a few days ago.
Karen, I think your screen share is not working.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, great. So today I'm excited to share with you the results of our hot off the presses research into CTV usage and behaviors in EMEA. First, a little background on Magnite. Last time we were here, we were known as the Rubicon Project. But in April, while everyone was in lockdown, watching lots of TV, Rubicon merged with Telaria to form Magnite. Telaria was a perfect match. Rubicon's omnichannel programmatic capabilities with Telaria's CTV expertise meant that by merging, we were able to become the world's largest independent sell-side platform for every channel and format, including digital audio, video, mobile, display, digital out-of-home, and of course, CTV and OTT. So why did we do this research? Well, first, let's set the stage. After a slow start, Western Europe is poised for robust growth, with eMarketer predicting an 18% increase in OTT subscribers over the next 4 years. With the pandemic shifting media consumption trends towards subscription OTT services, and with Salto, Pluto, Amazon, and Disney Plus continuing to expand into Western European markets, there are really two dynamics happening here. First of all, there's a seismic shift in how people are consuming content, and certainly that was been accelerated by the pandemic, and growing fragmentation in the TV market. Advertisers are taking notice and planning for new ways to reach their consumers as more people shift their viewing from traditional TV to streaming and on-demand content. But very little is known about how people are actually engaging with this content and what the impact is for advertisers. So why do we do this research? Well, we were constantly getting asked about where the market was going. Were people really transitioning from linear to streaming? And most importantly, why should they advertise? There are really two ways of getting data. You either buy it from a third party or you create it yourself. And when we searched all the recent research, we found that there was really a lack of data about the potential and power of CTV in EMEA. So we did a study that addressed the questions that clients were asking us every day. What is the reach? How are people engaging with content? Is CTV an effective advertising environment for driving KPIs? At this point, I should clarify our definition of connected TV. Connected TV is any television set that is connected to the internet via smart TV, game console, or streaming device like Roku. And generally refers to people that are watching premium broadcast quality, long-form content through app-based services. Throughout this presentation, I'll be using the term CTV and streaming interchangeably. As I said earlier, linear is more of a habit than an active choice. Oops, sorry about that. So we did an in-depth study for 5 countries. We worked with Harris Interactive to execute a Gen Pop online survey to a nationally representative sample of 2,100 respondents per country for a total sample size of over 10,000 people. We will be rolling out our findings for each country over the coming weeks. We will also be consolidating all the findings into an overall EMEA snapshot, but we're giving you a sneak peek into some early results right now. So let's get into those results. The data for France show widespread adoption of streaming services. I know there are a lot of stats on this slide. I'm going to try to go through them pretty quickly. Nearly 8 out of 10 adults use a streaming service weekly, with 46% using it daily. And it isn't just SVOD services. 62% are watching an AVOD service weekly, and this data is specifically for France. AVOD currently comprises those who watch any catch-up service like a broadcast VOD and/or free-to-view ad-supported streaming services like Rakuten TV, Pluto, Dplay, or YouTube. 42% of all viewing is on streaming services, but interestingly, 66% prefer streaming services over linear. This is because linear has really become more of a habit. It isn't that they enjoy it more, it's just more of a routine, and I'll get into that in a little later. So it's no surprise that the pandemic has accelerated the rate of adoption, and now we can actually quantify that. 43% are watching AVOD more often than before the pandemic, and 74% plan to stay at that level or increase it post-pandemic. Why this is important is because behavior becomes ingrained and less open to change. People are watching more streaming at the expense of linear, and nearly 40% plan to add a service. So as the pandemic wages on, seemingly with no end in sight, we could see even more time spent on streaming. So we wanted to understand the drivers of CTV preference. To do this, we looked at 14 what we call need states, and did a cluster analysis to identify key drivers. And a key theme emerged, and that is the desire to be first. Viewers are driven by the desire to be first, with 68% wanting to discover new things, get excited about exclusive original content, and watch shows that they can recommend to friends. What this points to is that consumers are watching in a whole new way. They have different expectations of a streaming experience versus a linear experience. They expect quality and they want original content. For streamers, it's all about discovering new content that they can't find on linear. And they want those custom experiences. They don't want the traditional way of watching where, they have to choose what we call appointment TV, where they have to choose what's on. They want that choice themselves. They're curating their own entertainment choices, selecting what they want to watch rather than having somebody do it for them. Think about it. The average watch list in France has 9 shows queued up. So, we're seeing that the desire for this content is there. They've got their shows all lined up, ready to go. As I said earlier, linear is more of a habit than an active choice. Viewing on linear tends to be more passive than active. So does this attentiveness impact, how does this impact the attentiveness to the content? So our data revealed that there's a higher level of distraction on linear than CTV. People are watching with their family, they're eating, they're tuning from the big screen to the small screen and switching between shows, which means that the more disengaged you are from the programming, the less engaged you're apt to be with the advertising. So how does this viewer engagement translate to the ad experience? We asked respondents questions related to various descriptions and ways you can define ad receptivity. And nearly 70% indicated that they are receptive to advertising on some way on AVOD programming. So they're open to watching shows on streaming TV. They're open to watching ads on streaming TV because there's less of them. They're open to watching ads to get access to high quality programming. They've had where they've considered a brand or a product as a result of seeing their ads in their favorite shows. And they've discovered new products from ads. So when we look at that ad receptivity, Great, that's fine, but is it driving action? And what we found when we sort of looked at all the different actions that were being taken and rolled it all up, 64% took some kind of action as a result of exposure to advertising in streaming programming. So maybe they searched online for products and services, they discussed the ads with somebody, they recalled the ads later, and even bought a product or service. So what can advertisers do to optimize the ad experience even further for the viewer? Well, a key factor emerged, and that is respect their time by being less intrusive in the content and give them something for their time, such as an ad that is relevant to their needs or relevant to the context of the show. And this is one of the key benefits that we talk about with streaming, the ability to really have some sort of relevance to the viewer and not just show them, a random ad, what we call in the US a spray and pray. So just as viewers are watching in a new way, they want advertisers to speak to them in a new way as well. So in wrapping up, the key takeaways of our study provide a solid case for making CTV a strategic imperative. So CTV is the future of TV, providing scale and reach at a level rivaling broadcast. That's what we saw earlier. Viewers are consuming more streaming TV due to the lockdown and will likely continue consuming more streaming content post-pandemic. Audiences across the board are now streaming every day, even multiple times a day, and viewing multiple services. As viewers continue to stack AVOD platforms on top of paid, marketers have an opportunity to expand reach and fuel their funnel with more consumers. Viewers prefer streaming TV over broadcast because of the quality programming, the lighter ad load, and the ability to discover new exclusive content. This engagement with the content results in more attentive viewing to both the content and the advertising. And in turn, this leads to higher receptivity to advertising, driving the business outcomes that advertisers are looking for. So consumers are moving over to connected TV in record numbers, and by understanding the power of connected TV, you can integrate it into your overall media strategy. So I hope you found this research of use. As a reminder, this is a short preview of a full report, which will be available in January next year. A lot more information. This was only the tip of the iceberg. Now I'll turn it over to Will Jones, Head of Publisher Development at EMEA for CTV and OTT at Magnite, who will be joined by some experts in the space to discuss the opportunity in France, both from the research numbers and through a more technical lens too. Will?
Okay, just gathering the rest of the panel. I think we're all good to go. So thanks so much, Karen, for the research. I think there's some really fascinating points in that. We're certainly at a key phase in CTV growth in France. So as Karen mentioned, I lead all new business in EMEA for CTV and OTT at Magnite. And the second part of this workshop is focused on the state of the CTV market in France. We're going to discuss some of the points touched on in the research, some of the main players in the market, and we're going to look a bit closely to the technology you need for successful CTV advertising. We're also going to look at how the market will hopefully grow in 2021. So with so many consumers already using streaming services in France, and with a new wave of AVOD channels, there is a very good opportunity for 2021 and beyond. It's also key to note that there's parts of the market that are in its infancy. So we need to kind of educate and develop parts of those, and we're going to touch on those. So hopefully everyone will kind of get a bit of a flavour for those types of areas in the market. So we've got a fantastic panel to discuss all this. We're lucky to have someone from the buy side, the sell side, and also technology. So I'll let them introduce themselves, starting with Jan.
Yeah, thanks, Will. So really happy to join the conversation today. And hi, everyone. My name is Jan. I'm the Director of Revenue at Pluto TV in Europe. That means together with my team, I'm looking after advertising partnerships and also developing our technical infrastructure in each country. So each country means across UK, Germany, Switzerland, Austria, since October also Spain, and in the future in France as well. So I hope you guys don't mind if I just drop a few more words about Pluto TV, because in France, our product is not live yet. So maybe in a nutshell, just Pluto TV is a free ad-supported streaming TV service, combining live TV and the VOD component at the same time. So we actively position away from a pure AVOD player and rather being considered as a fast service. So what is fast? In the US, it is already common sense to have a separate cluster, and it slowly comes to EU as well. But anyway, so Pluto TV was founded in the US 2016. I think during a time where SVOD has been pretty dominant. And what Pluto TV did is completely the opposite. So launching an entirely free service with a linear TV experience instead on a 100% on-demand approach. And as of today, we are reaching over 36 million users in over 22 countries around the globe. And our aim is to entertain users with fresh, unique channels wherever they are, so on web, app. But I think the important thing to understand is that our product is mainly being used on the big screen. We are following a clear big screen and CTV approach here. And very soon, also in France. So thanks for having me today.
No problem. Yeah, and good to have you. And we'll go to Amit next.
Hi, I forgot to introduce myself at the start of this panel of the session too, but yes, I'm Amit Shetty, and I'm with the IB Tech Lab. I think that everyone on here already knows about the Tech Lab since we are part of the organizers of this event. I work on a lot of the programmatic ad fraud and brand safety work at the Tech Lab, but I've also been working on a lot of CTV kind of is a cross initiative effort, if you will, one of the highest priorities at the Tech Lab. So it's kind of a part of pretty much everything that we do in some ways. So happy to be here and to talk, especially on the technology side of things.
Great. We'll come on to some of the tech stuff later on. So final introduction from Roman, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm Roman Moussa from the programmatic company where I'm a chief product officer. For when you don't know the programmatic company, we are working on a platform to help all advertiser and agency navigate through all the platforms existing today, from GSP to social media to search and everything. So adding a new stack on our platform is always a good thing. So CTV is really an interesting topic for us as well.
Great stuff. So we're going to go into our questions now. If we've got time at the end, we'll hopefully take some questions from the audience. But we've sort of split these questions up on the panel. We're going to start off with looking at some consumer habits, CTV growth, and also focus a bit on the buy side. So let's start off with Roman. We saw in the research that CTV is rivaling the reach of broadcast now with streaming services and new AVOD launches such as Mango from Molotov. And 2/3 of the respondents in France prefer streaming over broadcast. I don't think it's as simple as that. So it'd be really interesting, Roman, to hear if you're seeing brands considering the channel.
Yeah, exactly. It's not as easy because, like, even if I would say mostly yes, because we can see like more and more clients are interested about CTV and they are spending more and more on CTV. It's not that easy because, like, with the studies that are not showing the same thing everywhere. Like, I've seen some studies saying like most of the user of CTV are 40-ish. When I'm working with different partner, like most of the users are more under 35 most of the time. So I think we still need time to really understand everything, educate our advertisers, our customers on all the CTV markets. And other than that, I think there is still, even in this introduction, we had some help about that, but there's still a lot of confusion about all this topic, like OTT, CTV, what is the device, what is the content, and so on. So yeah, I'd say mostly yes, but there is still a lot to do.
Yeah, I think there is. You're right to say there's definitely education needed in the market. And Amit, do you want to just come in on some of the nuances around OTT versus CTV? Because I know that's something in the UK we've had to educate people on as much as we can.
For sure, for sure. So it is definitely one of those evergreen conversations that that we're hoping we've addressed. We have a blog post on our website that covers what the difference is between CTV and OTT. We'll figure out if there's a way to provide links to the audience as well. But basically, the way we look at it, there's some historical implications to the term OTT. It came in more from the the broadcast side of the world, where everything other than what was being sent over the set-top box was considered as OTT, which basically meant that they are also including mobile and desktop streams as well. I think that at this point in time, OTT is being used as a more generic term to indicate that high quality video streams, right? So video content. What we at the Tech Lab, we focus really more on the CTV side of things, which is basically from a technical point of view, there are some real differences between mobile and desktop devices versus what we call the CTV, connected TV devices, and those are basically things like your smart TVs, streaming devices connected to the TVs, as well as gaming consoles and things like that.
Fantastic. And just going back to Roman on the kind of buying strategies, what does your agency's current buying strategy look like for CTV versus something like linear TV or video at the moment?
First, we are a fully digital company, so we are not really used to buying linear TV as it exists for decades. But I would say today, we are buying CTV like we would buy linear TV mostly. Indeed, we are more focused on contextual targeting through specific channels that are always premium, just like it would be on linear TV. We are working with our partner to establish whitelists we would like to serve on, and mostly through programmatic guaranteed buying. Regarding streaming video, it's completely different. Like we are approaching more like programmatic. We are in a programmatic way, we are using data and stuff. So it's really different on our side to work on one or the other. For me, it's really about like CTV is really linked to linear TV in advertising mind as well for two reasons. Like for us, it's an easier approach to get advertiser from linear TV go to CTV because like in their mind it's TV. So it's really a soft change and it's easier for us to get them on this point. And the second reason it's closer to TV buying is that despite the growth of CTV, I think we are still facing a bit of lack of inventory. Maybe Pluto coming later is going to fix that a bit. But that means like we have still issue with the reach as well. So we are not really able to add data or really buying as we do in programmatic. So I think that's a too big point on that.
Yeah, go on.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say like maybe it's going to change in 2021 for the exact reason I just said, like this inventory is going to increase, and I think with the new video game console just released and some other reason, like its inventory is going to grow, so our ability is going to be wider as well.
Yeah, and I think you're right to touch on the programmatic side of CTV. I think all CTV will at some point become programmatic, and we can all TV in fact will become programmatic, and we'll touch on some of the technical stuff the second half of the panel. But I think also is the key thing here is the quality of the content, and subscription video on demand, SVOD subscription services will really drive up the quality of AVOD services. And we saw in the research how some of the audiences are far less distracted on linear, and that's probably far less distracted than linear, and that's probably due to the quality of the content on streaming services. And I wanted just to come to Jan now and talk about how consumers from our research seem to be more preoccupied with other activities when they're watching broadcasts. Maybe they're on their phone, for instance. And I wanted to ask Jan, how do you measure audience engagement on your platform, and do you see a similar theme in this?
Yeah, so actually that's a tricky question, but just let's take a step back. And because by and large, of course, it's obvious that we are talking about the fundamental change in the TV industry, So there is a shift in viewership and also in consumer behavior. And of course, that needs to be measured. And honestly, with reference to your study, so I cannot 100% confirm that a single user might be less distracted than a linear TV, because it's simple, we're a pure digital player, right? So that means I don't have the one-on-one comparison between linear and our product. But what I know for sure is that audience engagement is a key KPI as a CTV publisher. So basically reflected through total viewing minutes. So more or less a basic KPI, but it's really on the spotlight, because from a user perspective, TVMs are key, because on CTV, you usually get long session durations due to the lean back experience. And for us at Pluto TV, we're seeing different session durations, and we have to consider that there are different devices with different target groups behind that. But on CTV, the session durations are really outstanding here. And on the other side, so away from the user perspective, going to the monetization perspective, I think it is simply expressed by completion rates. So due to the premium ad experience. And long story short, so from a publisher perspective, so we are doing everything we can to drive user engagement, because users are really the foundation for us and for our business. But I think the advanced challenge will be for the buy side, because it's the question how to bridge the gap between data from a TV mindset, classic in-stream, and our streaming applications as well on the big screen. So I think that's definitely one of the key answers to find within the next years.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sort of following on from that, we have seen a high level of ad receptivity from audiences on connected TV. This is something that came out of our research again. So 68% of the respondents are open to streaming ads. And I think this goes back to the environment of streaming. There are less ads shown currently than it would be on TV. And we found that some audiences understood the kind of value exchange for ads for content. So let's go to Roman first. How does this receptivity turn from an opportunity into a real value add for brands and agencies?
I'd like to say, like, maybe we can add some of the metrics we didn't talk about, and which are going to help that. It's like we are going to be in an environment where the player side is going to be way bigger, and the attention is going to be like 100% on this ad. So I really think it's going to be quite easy for advertisers to project themselves into that and see how it's going to be a really great tool for project or brand awareness. So I really think it's going to be an easy way to convince our advertiser to go on CTV.
Yeah, and Jan, did you have any thoughts on the sort of ad receptivity side of CTV?
Yeah, so from where I'm sitting, I think the study nailed the strengths and also the challenges right on the head. So the chance here is to really generate user involvement in the upper funnel, so at least from an advertiser perspective. So CTV is a must in 2021 media plans. So I think CTV can really deliver what brands have been asking for years, so media quality, which means no clutter, amazing completion rates, so I have to echo myself here, viewability by nature, and maybe less ads than in classic TV. So I think it depends on the service. But once a user is less annoyed about ad intensity, it might lead to more acceptance. I don't know. But what I know for sure, again, is that beside these huge values we have today, there is also a challenge finding technologies to allow independent evidence of this quality. So vendors that actually prove this great quality of CTV environment from another perspective. So bottom line here, even without advanced measurement today, CTV is already a huge value for brands from my perspective. So since advertisers or buyers can have access to people, so to target groups, they may not have had efficacy before. So I think that's important to keep in mind here. And we have to remind ourselves again and again, this CTV revolution is really driven by users. So not forced by the industry or by the government. So I think this behavior has been shifted globally and driven by users, viewers.
Yeah, I think, like we've mentioned, users hold the key here. You know, how many users are going to move from subscription services and try out new advertiser video on demand services? I think that's what we've seen in the US. That's what we've seen in the UK, and I think there will be a movement for that in France at some point next year. So I think it's keen. I think we'll move on now to the kind of technical side of CTV. And this goes hand in hand with the user experience, because if you've got a fantastic user experience, a premium user experience on a large screen, then you also want a premium ad experience to run alongside that, just how it is on TV. So I just wanted to we're going to look at a few technical things, but firstly, we'll look at CTV ad delivery. So we'll go to Amit first. And what are the biggest challenges to CTV ad delivery in relation to linear TV advertising? You know, ad podding technology, I think, is a core part of this, and just wanted you to give a bit of an overview of CTV ad delivery and touch on ad podding.
Sure. So I think the CTV ad delivery technical challenges are as wide as ad delivery technical challenges in general, right? And I think they're definitely also layered on top of, into the server-side ad insertion technology, because a lot of CTV ad delivery is based on server-side ad insertion rather than on the client side. So those are, I think, some of the key things that are tied there. And actually, I should also say, plug for another blog post on our website around that covers all the different areas of delivery. So basically, we look at it as 6 different areas. First is around privacy and identity. The second around brand safety. The third one around ad fraud. The fourth one is around just purely some of the mechanics of delivery. The fifth is around interactivity. And the sixth, and probably one of the most important, is around measurement. And each of these areas have their own implications around CTV because of the device challenges and so on. And it really comes down to what the devices are capable of, but also the quality of the experience, right? So you now it's no longer a case where you can have a bad ad inserted in between and people can kind of ignore it because it's a small screen. The big screen really makes a big difference in having a pixelated experience or in having a pause or things like that. And that makes it important to have that great quality and quick reaction. So there are a lot of things that have to be done, and they have to be done considering, as you can see from the research and from really 2020 has been a major bump up in CTV consumption, right? So this now has to be done in a scalable and standardized format, which is why we've been working on this area a lot.
Yeah, no, we have to maintain that quality for users. We have to maintain that advertising quality.
Right,
So,
and to your point about ad podding too, right? So it's a question of you're gonna make sure that the right ads are have been cached up front. You take care of in order to take care of latency. Make sure that you're targeting it. Especially one of the advantages of CTV compared to broadcast is the idea that you can actually target your users in a much better manner, right? So rather than having a single ad being delivered to a wide variety of people, you can have a more segmented set of ads too. But that also does mean that your ad insertion has you're inserting an ad for potentially millions of users, especially in a live stream. So there are a whole bunch of additional challenges that come in there.
Yeah, I think it's key to use ad podding technology that can do things like competitive separation. We've heard this a lot. So Jan, what are your thoughts on CTV ad delivery and what are Pluto using in terms of technology at the moment?
Yeah, firstly, I totally agree with Amit. So I think you perfectly summarized the challenges here. But just to add something to the ad pods, but because I think ad pods are really a critical component in this game. So linear TV breaks and CTV ad pods seem to be similar, but different at the same time. Because just to say an ad pod is a TV-like ad break is just a scratch on the surface with a lot of complexity underneath. So firstly, buyers and sellers need to understand the complexity behind that, because as a publisher, we would like to generate revenues on the one hand side, but we would also like to see a variety of ads. So, and that means, for instance, to dig deeper into the technical perspective, multiple SSP bids, for example, for a single campaign can only lead to one winning bid as of today, because within an ad pod, people hate to see the same ad back to back. And of course, we have to prevent that. And secondly, it's about prefetching. So the preloading process before an ad actually appears in front of the user. So this is incredibly important to understand all the way up to supply chain, because it highly affects the use rates. And finally, beside ad pods, and here I have to repeat myself again, I think it's the third-party measurement of ad fraud, viewability, to independently prove the high quality of this media environment.
Yeah, thanks, Jan. Good segue into the next question. So we haven't got too long left. So let's touch on fraud really quickly. We could take up our own panel all on fraud in CTV, because we do have to look at this as an area to defend against. So Amit, just to give us a bit of a view on fraud. We know it's happening, but we also know there's great tools out there to combat against it.
Right. So fraud. One of the things that I always hear about fraud is how fraudsters are going to target the place where there's a lot of where the money is, right? So they're going to follow the money, and CTV is definitely where the money seems to be headed towards right now, for good reason. And I think from a fraud point of view, as far as the Tech Lab goes, we are very aware that it's a very complex problem to solve, right? And I think that there are a lot of companies that are working on fraud to address fraud, technology solutions to address fraud as well. What we are trying to do from the Tech Lab side of point of view is really to focus on transparency, right? So basically, reduce the opportunity for fraud by being as transparent as possible with your supply chain. So standards like ads.txt and sellers.json, which clearly indicate, okay, who, as a publisher, you can indicate who your authorized sellers are. And also, as you look through the supply chain, as the transaction goes through various entities, with the supply chain object and sellers.json, you identify who those entities are, which allows the buyer to say, okay, these are publishers that we are happy to work with. These are the entities that we should be working with, and that reduces the opportunity for fraud. Now, that still obviously does not eliminate fraud. There are obviously plenty of other places that can be done, but at least it helps in reducing that, if you will.
Yeah, of course.
And I should say, right now the working group is working on from an ads.txt point of view, the CTV. CTV is definitely the area that we're working on right now, and it is a lot more complex in some ways is more complex than other scenarios where, let's say that you have you're as far as ad delivery goes, right? So you have say Pluto as your MVPD in a sense. That is selling content. You might have somebody else creating content, and you also have the actual device platforms like Roku and others, Samsung and others, who are delivering the content, right? So all these three entities have the opportunity to sell ad inventory there, and basically we are trying to define exactly how that relationship works and make it a little more easier to define that.
Fantastic. I just want to touch on cookies. I don't want to go down the cookie rabbit hole because we can talk about it for a long time. But just to Roman, from the buy side point of view, what are your thoughts on I know cookies aren't really cookies in the ecosystem will disappear at some point. But I just want you to get your thoughts from the buy side in terms of identity. It's a huge focus for everyone who works in CTV. So what are your thoughts at the moment for identity?
Yeah, sure. I really think like most of the CTV inventory force people to be logged in to be able to use it. So I think it could not be an issue maybe if some of the initiatives are coming to term, especially when some of them are going to use an email address, for example, as identification to target people through different inventory. So I think in the contrary, like maybe I don't know much, to be honest, on this cookie on CTV, but maybe probably it's not going to be an issue with the end of the cookie. Since every inventory is going to be a logged-in inventory. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think identity in 2021 is going to be a key focus for CTV. I'm sure there's going to be development in that area. We're already seeing some technology that can help, and I'm sure at some point there'll be more of a universal or global way of targeting and identifying people on CTV.
If I can add on to that,
Yeah,
there are two things from a standards point of view that are important. One is the IFA, the Identifier for Advertising guidance that we had provided for CTV platforms. I think that's something that is a factor here. And I actually, the previous session, Project Rearc at the Tech Lab, that I think is going to be relevant from a CTV point of view as well. This is one of those problems that's not an easy one to solve, and I suspect that it'll require a lot of thought from the industry to make it happen.
Yeah. Right, we've got 3 minutes left, so I want a quick roundup from each of you, just looking ahead to the next 12 to 18 months in CTV and in your strategies from each of your businesses. So I'll go with Jan first.
Yeah, so let me answer that real quick. Firstly, I'm sure we will see an ongoing shift to connected TV viewership. Secondly, I think further content and distribution collaborations in the industry. So we will definitely see some of them in each country. And finally, further development of measurement and contextual intelligence. So bottom line here, as Pluto TV, we are moving forward with our current strategy. And to sum up the overall situation from my perspective, TV is definitely not dead, but it will be different. Yeah.
And Roman?
Yeah, what I think is like if the user are going to use CTV, like the advertiser has to follow like where the user are going. So obviously it's going to be a big year for CTV just because of that. Because like even if the lockdown and the pandemic is probably going to end, I think the usage are going to continue. So that means if the people are here, like the advertiser will have to follow.
And then finally, Amit.
So CTV is definitely something that's going to be a major focus. Has been this year and will continue to be next year from Tech Lab's point of view. We know that it's something that is growing and also needs a lot of work on across all the different things like ads.txt, as well as VAS4 and open measurement for measurement, the whole host of things across all those 6 areas that I was talking about. So I think it's going to be an interesting year next year.
Fantastic. So I think we've got time for one real quick question from the audience. So someone's asked, with lots of data being collected, how do you analyze the need for privacy for users? Does anyone want to take that one?
If I may, I think it would be the same as all the other platforms as well, right? So we had to pay attention to the privacy needs. We had the gathering of PII and how we manage that data is something that we had to be very, very responsible around. And again, I point back to that Project Rearc conversation. That is, not just. I don't think it's a CTV specific problem, though I do think that the user experience does cause some, I think, interesting headaches. But I'll let others comment as well.
We've got to wrap up now. There's more.
Right.
Yeah, there's some more panels starting. So just want to say thanks for joining us, guys. Really, really informative. I hope for the audience we've covered some of the aspects of CTV and kind of the successful technology needed to run advertising on CTV, and hopefully a bit of insight into where the industry is going in 2021. So thanks to everyone for tuning in. Hopefully you learned something. I'm looking forward to another great year in CTV in 2021. So have great weekends. See everybody soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.